Here. This is Observations with Otsu. This is Monday, October 30th, one day away from Halloween here in the States. But the market overall has been pretty good over the past couple weeks. Honestly, really, the past 2 or 3 weeks. And in my particular case, really all year. And so I kind of want to look at that. And I think enough time has passed to give us this new perspective on what I'm about to discuss. The title for this video is called Print Money Instead of Doubting. And part of that is to understand that we are in a new cycle and to look at trading differently within certain cycles. Okay. And so you should always have the same general concept to trade as far as your methods. Okay. Now, your methods can change, your edge can change, things like that. But the cycle, the markets also change too. There are market cycles. Okay. It is um, problematic to try to trade bullishly in a bearish scenario and vice versa. Well, I'm pretty confident, especially with this swing that we had, that the market has drastically changed. Um, I'll go into this a little bit more, but as far as really the 3 day and higher goes, you can see literally like the bottom for the entire year was basically in January. Like there's no contest, right? Like I have doubts. I have very big doubts that will go back to that level ever again, much less this year. So I think it's safe to say that the January price point was the bottom of this year. And that says a lot about a lot of traders who, it's one thing to be fearful in January to buy. I can understand that. I don't agree with it, and I didn't because I bought. But I can understand not wanting to buy at 16. I really do. It's another thing when you look now, almost a year later, and we're at 34,000 and you haven't bought. And so if you have not bought a single penny or a single cent, a single sat, I should say, of Bitcoin for the long term, I think it's time to have a discussion with yourself and analyze like why. What happened there? I'm not blaming you necessarily because I've done that myself. I've done stupid things, or I shouldn't say stupid. I have done things to that caliber. Okay, it's not necessarily stupid. You may not know better. Okay, if this is your fourth cycle and you didn't do it, well, there's a little more of self responsibility on that. But I won't. I don't think I'll ever call anybody stupid unless they're a scammer or whatever. So that's not where I was going. But where I was planning to go with that is that we do need to lend ourselves to a different perspective. And I'm going to discuss that in the video, but mainly like in the theme section is that we had basically this range here, and really you could put it right here. This was the reclaim. He really would have been it really been a good overall. Obviously, it would have been good to buy any price point under 30, right? We know that. But this would have been really good because it's kind of a range, right? And so we can kind of see that play out. Here's your other one. Here's your second range. So you could have bought with any with those things. And I'll get into it more later, but your emotions get the best of you. Your bear market PTSD gets the best of you, things like that. So the reason for this video and the theme for this video is that we do need to think differently, because the time for the capitulation markets are gone, in my opinion. The time for outright downward bearish price action is gone, in my opinion. We might get some moves down that is different than the cycle going down, and we'll get into that also. So that's kind of the introduction for that. If that's something that floats your boat, stay tuned for the theme. If not, you can go to later on in this video for the charts. So I'm going to do preliminaries, and Discord news and my scripts news. If you're interested in my scripts, please, that's the next thing I'm going to talk about. After that, I'm going to talk about the themes of this video. Then I'm going to go to TA, analysis or technical analysis for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and sprinkle some alts in there as well. So I don't know how long this video is. My observations videos have been longer lately, about an hour, and that I'm fine with that if you are fine with that, because it allows me to say everything I need to say for the week. And so we'll go into that. If you don't like it, maybe I can cut it shorter. Maybe I can do a two-parter. That might be good as well. So anyway, let me know what you think. I'm going to get started on the rest of the video. A few preliminaries. Most of this has to do with Discord and even TradingView, but the biggest number one thing is that my Aron bots were going to go live. I still have a live feed that is completely free right now. It's basically one big feed on my Discord channel. You can look it up and know where Discord. If I publish this on YouTube, you should see a link in the description. If it's on Twitter or X, I will upload it within the thread. So what happened was I was planning to go live with the Aron bots, but a lot of people had suggestions that they wanted to look at the TradingView script. And so I am offering my Aron bots as bots, but I'm also advertising them as indicators on TradingView. If you want access to them, I will only offer one-time lifetime payments for them. And so the range is going to vary. And I've added some. I had three indicators primarily. I have the Apex indicator. And if you're not familiar with any of these, go ahead and check out my Discord. I got the Apex indicator, which is a combination of Aron trend and momentum, analysis to have buys and sells that have take profits and stop losses added to them. Or entries and stop losses, I should say. I also have the Aron trend indicator, which kind of shows more of a trend based flow to the price action. And then I have a liquidity indicator, which shows you the times when supply and demand are at its limits, and so therefore it could be susceptible to reversals, to enter in on reversals, or the impulses to the direction that it asks for. So I got one liquidity based indicator, one trend based indicator, and one momentum based indicator. And so in addition to those, I'm actually going to split the momentum one into two. So you're going to get two full indicators. I'm not going to split it into two. I added a second one into that if you want more conservative trades or if you want more aggressive trades. So one's going to be called Apex Classic. The other one's going to be called Apex Plus or Apex Pro. I haven't decided just yet how to call that. But all four of those are going to be available to either to purchase separately or together. The prices are going to range. I'm not not solidified in stone yet on those prices. It's going to be somewhere between $200 to $500 each, and so we'll go into that. And I understand that those are a little bit pricier than people might expect, and that's just something that people will have to deal with, unfortunately, because the monthly because the monthly charges would have been $20-$30 minimum, if not 50, and so some of those prices are less than a year's worth. So you're actually getting a pretty good deal. If you plan to use them for more than 12 months, it will be a good deal for you versus my Apex bots for one. Two, getting the upfront cost kind of helps me out as well. And then if you want to buy all of them, I'll have a big discount for all of them. And I'm not sure what that will be just yet. So anyway, those are working, or I'm working on them. They're getting ready to be uploaded. The first one, I'm going to upload them one at a time. The first one's going to get uploaded within 24 to 48 hours. And then I'll roll the rest of them out as we go throughout the next 7 days. So that's basically all my preliminaries, is focusing on the scripts and the bots. Nowhere Premium is still coming, and I got some other things for that. If you like my Nowhere Discord, or if you haven't joined, you should join. But I also do chart requests on Tuesdays and market updates about 5 to 10 minutes every day, Monday or Sunday through Thursday. So anyway, those are the preliminaries. We're gonna get started onto the theme of this video. So the overall theme for this video is printing money without doubting, and I could have presented that a different way. I think I've had videos similar to this where it's, basically don't fear, have no fear in the markets. There's other ways to translate this. And so the general idea of this video is really to flip all of those ideas and put them into one and just focus on making money. Okay, so that's the primary thing. I've had a lot of concerns over the years. Some of you have seen lots of my frustrations. You understand that I go on rants sometimes, but by and large, all of that put together, I can summarize that into one thing. I really do want you to make money. Okay, I really do. And so I'm not here to say, and I know good traders that will say things like this, like, screw you, I'm going to use you as exit liquidity if I need to, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there technically isn't anything wrong with that. Okay, technically isn't. If you are trading according to just how people trade, someone is going to make profits because someone else is in the market. That's just kind of how it works. Okay, but it's not always so simplistic. Like I think it is a little brash and simplistic, and also complicated at the same time to say, well, I'm going to use you as exit liquidity. That's not a good approach, in my opinion. That's not really a good way to just focus on healthy trading per se. That's not how I view it. That's not how a lot of people view it either. And honestly, like everybody in your group can make money. Okay. And so that's one reason I focus on making a Discord group as well, because a lot of the people I have on Twitter, first of all, Twitter can go away tomorrow, or X or whatever it's called now. It can go away tomorrow. That was a big concern this time last year, that when Twitter got bought out, what is Twitter going to do next? And so a lot of you guys, I know people out there that have 300, 500, 700,000 followers. Are they even going to have their accounts? And if so, what's going to happen with that, right? And so, and it's not so much that I care about that with this video. It's more so the type of audience is much more broad on my Twitter or X account than it is in Discord. So in Discord, I have roughly 200 people, and we tend to have common ground, right? And so that's the thing. And the focus is actually on making money, because I can say something high level intelligent or whatever, anything according to my brand and my trading style, and I can say it on Twitter and it'll go over a lot of people's heads, or it won't get in the engagement that I expected it to get. But on Discord it will, because the reason, if you are in Discord, the reason that you're already in there is because you've already liked my content on Twitter or X, and then you want to look at more. And so that's the flow of that, right? And so going back to the trading aspect of this, my focus is for you to make money. I think there is enough money for all of us, and I show everything that I show you are ways that everybody can make money. And I'm telling you, the people don't fail at making money because they have, I've seen, anyway, I stuttered a little bit because I've had things like, well, if Otsukimi, if you say too much about your Aroon, which is not even mine, by the way, it's something that somebody made in the 90s. If you talk too much about that, it's going to have less effect over time. And I disagree with that strongly, because the RSI is one of the most popular indicators of all time, and people don't know how to trade it properly. Moving averages, one of the most popular things ever. People don't know how to trade it properly. And even if they know how to trade it properly, they still need to execute it properly. And that's what I'm saying. Most people, and I don't want to say you necessarily, but it could be you. And so take this with a grain of salt. I'm not personally attacking anybody, but if this is you, put it in the context of you personally. Like your performance, your lack of performance may not be because you don't know how to trade. Your lack of performance may not be because you don't know the ins and outs of trading and indicators and assets and smart contracts and all those other things, or because it's a 24/7 market, or because Powell is making his speeches or anything like that. It might not even be because you don't know anything, or because you do know something. But you have an extra layer of that. You have execution. Okay, you have fear, you have uncertainty. And that's what I'm saying about this particular theme for today, is because I know a lot of people. I know a lot of very, very, very good traders that have made more money than me this year, that completely failed on this rally, completely screwed it up, failed in this rally, that they didn't buy until $25,000, or some of them didn't buy any spot at all. Like I know one guy that has only gotten maybe one or two things in spot this year, and he's made more money than I probably have in the past 3 years, because he's got a lot of money. That's why. And so, I mean, if I was able to retire now, I would certainly do it. But that's beside the point. The point is, some people know how to trade and they don't capitalize on making money. That's the thing, because of execution, because of their fear or the uncertainty or their doubts. And I primarily want to focus on doubting today, which is also the theme and part of the title, of course, but also because a lot of people are doubting this. It's not even because of fear anymore. Okay. Down here was fear. People were afraid to buy subs 20. They were afraid to buy 16,000, 17,000, 18, 19 because it would go down again. And it just went down here, right? And we had that rejection from that PAL meeting. I remember exactly where I was. I was getting my car detailed at this particular area right here. And I remember thinking that we were going to go up when we didn't. And I was very concerned about that. I was concerned about being wrong. Um, and I was actually wrong for this period, but I was not wrong here. It's not about being right or wrong, right? It's about going through with your decisions, okay? It's about going through with it. I'm not talking about Capo and the biggest bull trap ever. He's playing that wrong. To put that very nicely, he's playing that wrong because he is not understanding the invalidation. He's too prideful, perhaps, probably, but I don't know for certain about his trade. Okay, whereas somebody like this, I understood the failure. I'm going to reassess. I still think that that's true. It ended up being true. So that's the thing. If this would have curled down, went up here, and then came back down, to like 10,000, okay, then I would have been, Kappa would have been a hero, right? So that's the thing. But I want to focus on doubting because a lot of people were doubting or were fearful. They weren't doubtful. They were just afraid to buy that low. And it's like, well, it's already gone down so much in such a short period of time, right? Where's this at? They always change these things. It went down like 65% from March to November, so like 6 months, so to speak. Or no, that's like 8 months. Anyway, went down 65% in 8 months. Yeah, I understand the fear. I still think it's wrong, but I understand it. Okay, and that's the thing. You shouldn't be fearful, but people are. You shouldn't let it master you. Is really what people should say. I understand the fear, but good trading options will allow you to make money not not because the fear doesn't exist, but in spite of that fear. And so now we're kind of going into this rally. And so this is kind of like what I had a video last month about disbelief, and it's the same thing. The whole point of disbelief is that you doubt that this is real. Okay, and so that's the thing. People doubted this despite the fact that this is almost a picture perfect reaccumulation range that lasted 3/4 of the whole year. Okay, and so you may not have gotten in here. You may even have gotten in and lost money, which may have led to doubting this rally more. And so that's the thing. If you're not prepared for here, you're not prepared for here, and then you start buying here, it goes down, you lost money. That tries to reaffirm your false belief that it's going to keep going down. And by all means, this should have went down. I understand that. I think it definitely looked like it was going to. And I made a clear assessment. I didn't say that it was a right assessment. It was right, but I'm not saying it because it is right. I'm saying because every day I wake up, you look at the screen, you try to make a healthy, unbiased analysis. I don't like the idea of having a bias. I don't like the idea of trying to think of being a bull first and see how I can capitalize on being a bull. Now, I look at the charts, I look at the criteria of the baseline, foundational criteria of what the charts look like right now, and then understand the direction that it could head. Okay. And some people try to hide that biasness by saying directional bias. Like, you should not have a bias. Okay. That is, I think, I understand it's more wordplay vernacular, but I think that lends itself to more haphazard trading when you try to always think like a bull or always think like a bear. That should be the last thing that you think about. So, but we're in prime time doubt stage, and now we're kind of entering the point where people are doubting less so. People are starting to believe that this rally is real, that this is more of a hope stage. And it seems to look that way. And so we'll get into that and see what we can learn from this, right? So, but overall, the idea of the theme and everything, talking about doubts, talking about fears, is that so that you can trade differently. Okay, you should not be thinking about what happened 2021, 2022, or even 2020, or even earlier in this year. Okay, I made that mistake in my first cycle and half of my second cycle. By the time I actually learned that the second cycle I went through was already 3/4 of the way over. I learned it probably around here. So I traded really good here, honestly. I really did. Um, but by then it was too late. I quit my job around this time as well, so that was tough. There was a time where I had less money than you think that I had, dealing with things that I look back now and I I would not have been able to do them by myself. So, but I say all that to say you need to think differently about the markets. You need to stop thinking that we are going to flash crash, that we are in a bear market. Even if you don't believe that we're in a bull market, I think it's a very firm stance to say correctly that we're not in a bear market. And a lot of those are subjective anyway. If you think too much about bull or bear, you're going to put yourself into some trouble. So, like I said, another part of the title was printing money. Your focus should be on making money, finding ways to get that green on your screen. Okay, I didn't mean to rhyme, but it did. So focus on the green. Don't focus on doubting. Like, don't worry about the doubt. I can tell you, based off statistical analysis, to based off of my own experience and everything else, you will perform better. Not necessarily better monetarily, but it should be. You will perform healthier, I should say, is a better phrase, by just focusing on the charts and just focusing on your trades. Don't be concerned or worry or doubt or fear where it's going to go, if it's going to fall out at any moment. One of the biggest things in my Apex Academy that we looked at was, like, let's say we have a long trade and you get your entry point. And so let's say this is our entry point, right? Most of the time, I'll even go so far as to say this: most people in the academy showed up to learn education. However, on an individual basis, I noticed that they probably struggle more with trading properly than knowing how to trade. Okay, the execution part was much more difficult, and honestly, a lot of people didn't either. A lot of people either knew that off the bat, and that was a big fear to even discuss it, or they didn't know it all, and they had no idea that trading execution is something that they should focus on. Even though it's a problem for them, they didn't even consider that as an option. So that's the thing. So when you get a trade like this, let's say you enter in right here where we're at now. The biggest misconception is that I think that it's just going to immediately go down like this. Like, do you realize how small that actually happens? And they don't even think that it's going to go like this, okay, which is much more prevalent. Like here, even here to an extent. Like, they think it's just every candle is going to be this. I'm telling you, if you think that way, that is exactly why you probably are not making money as much as you should. It happens very rarely, honestly. And guess what? If it does happen, let's say, so here's your examples, right? You have an example here. You have an example here. Let's even take this example here. Now, all those three have drops, right? But what else do they have in common? They all have bleeds after that. Here, you had. Why did they. I'm so upset. Why did you. They changed everything. So, pardon my. Just have to be patient with me, I guess. So, from here to here, before the drop, you had 51 days. 51. And so that's pretty considerable, right? Over here. All right, let me just get rid of this. And I'm so sorry. This is not professional. So, um, from here, just get me out of the way here. I'm being a boomer right now. So here you had 30 to 33 days. So you had plenty of time to get out of there, right? And so from here to here, yes, this was much more of a low, steep drop down, but you had 39 days to react out of that. And even before then, you had a consolidation period that had 81 days attached to it. So you had time, is basically what I'm saying. And so those are just 3 points. And so you need to understand that. And we can kind of look back here. Yes, this dropped down, but you had time. This was a distributed. This is a distribution aspect of the market. You had time to consider. Okay, over here, a little bit of a bleed, yes, but you had time to consider. And so sometimes you're only going to get. And keep in mind, this is a 3-day chart, so each candle is worth 3 days. So on the minimum, you probably had 1 week to consider getting out of a trade versus just waiting for it to drop 20, 30, 50%. Does that make sense? So I say that to say you should not fear a trade getting stopped out immediately because chances are you will have time, even on smaller trades. So generally, my scope of reference is you'll usually have 2 to 3 candles worth of whatever the time frame is. So for a 3-day chart, you're gonna have 6 to 9 days to at a minimum to counter that. If you work on a 4-hour chart, you should have 2 to 3 candles, so about 8 to 12 hours to work that out. And it also goes into the aspect of some of you guys are trading on lower time frames too much. Okay, and I'm not going to really say that that's wrong, but that does lend yourself to different problems. Okay, if you are trading on the 5 minute chart, sometimes you will only have 10 to 15 minutes to react to getting stopped out, and sometimes I can't even eat my food in 15 minutes. Okay, I actually try not to, but like that's a short window of time, right? So so that's the thing. That's also why I think spot is much more beneficial. And even the 12 hour, I've been very I've been a little bit affirmation about using 12 hour and 6 hour even because 6 hours even is just as good because it gives you the smoothness of a 12 hour one day, but it also gives you the frequency of a 4 hour, and then you still have time to react. Okay, and so that's why a lot of my apex signals are 6 hours. It's just better. So anyway, going into that, you kind of see what I'm saying. Like maybe there's another video I can do where I look at it from a stat standpoint. But generally speaking, you should not be concerned that a market is just going to flash crash just because you make a trade. Okay, that's the key there. It can flash crash. Let's look at 2 other examples. Like you had the FTX, right? Well, we were doing a downward consolidation for 140 days roughly before this candle, these series of candles. It took 2 or 3 days even for the FTX thing to follow through. The other example is COVID, and so that was probably the only example that actually looked really bad. Okay, but we still had time to get out, and I know because I did get out. I got out rough, basically like right here. I think I bled a little bit, but that was rough. I'm glad that I got out, and that was a big sign. That's not even the right one. That was 47% in 2 candles and 39% in one. And keep in mind, that's still 6 days. You had 6 days to think of something to do as far as your money. I know it's a complicated time, but that's why you can't be fearful. The thing is like we want to make ourselves excuses because of things like COVID. And I get it. I really, really do. I really do. I'm not saying that is even wrong. But when things hit the fan like that, it is even more of a reason to not be fearful, to not be doubtful, to be certain about your decisions. And that's what this theme is really about. It's not about necessarily doubting and print money instead. It's about being firm in what you're trying to do for your trading. Okay? Because at the end of the day, all of you guys, unless you're just a sick person, your goal is to make money in this environment and in this crypto space. And when you are trading, or whether it's equities, or whether it's gold, or whether it's Bitcoin, or whatever, your goal is to make money. Most people's goal is to make money. Okay, so focus on making money. Do not focus on your doubts. Do not focus on even your goals. Your goals can be a motivation to make money, but make your money so you can live out those goals. Because I can tell you like I'm a person that has been through that. Okay, I 6 to 7 years ago, I was sitting in a courthouse, broke as a joke because I couldn't afford anything, and my son was 2 days old. This year, I went on a 2 month vacation and bought a condo in a different country. Okay, and 7 years actually is a little bit longer of a time. People can do it in much less. But I was focused, okay? I didn't let my goals get in the way. And I bought a brand new SUV too. So after I had a piece of junk, okay? So that plays into it. Let your goals be there, and just like with your don't like with your fear and doubts, don't let your fears and doubts necessarily be there. Like they're always going to kind of be there, but don't let them like be there in the sense that you live them, okay? Because those are going to affect you. Don't let your dreams um, change you in a bad way to where you stop focusing on everything. And that's also why I am critical, and I don't mean to take this the route that I take it, but that's why I'm also critical about a lot of drugs and alcohol. I drink socially. I drink may I'll probably have one. I'll have probably less than 10 beers a year, or ten drinks of alcohol a year. Probably more like 5 or 6 or even 8 at the most. It's very rarely. Okay, usually just 1 month out with the guys. I have a Guinness or Grand Marnier, you know, something like that. But that's it. It's usually just one. I don't focus on that. One, I don't desire that. And two, it's expensive. And you know, drugs in particular. I don't want to get onto that because I know a lot of people that are in my audience do substances. I'm not accusing anybody. This isn't a judgment thing. This isn't. But based off of the data that I've had and in my experiences, it tends to reduce your performance, even if the substance in mind is supposed to increase your performance. It tends to give you more of a reliance on that substance, or I can't think of the word, but the dopamine, reliance on dopamine, which could have bad effects. I know people that were just fine doing drugs or doing substances for performance standards, and then they have a seizure or something like that. And anyway, I don't want to get into that too much. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not saying that it's trading. I'm not even saying that that's affecting your trading performance. I'm saying it can. Some people it will. Some people it may not. I'm not. I'm not an arbiter of that. I'm not here to tell you what to do or not do, but I'm saying look at everything in your life and see what is negatively affecting your trading that should not be negatively affecting your trading. Okay. I'm a husband and a father, and that will interrupt my trading, and that's okay. Those are exceptions to where it is okay to let them affect my trading. And that's why I trade other things like high time frame spot, because I can trade while still being with my family. Because at the end of the day, I'm trying to make more money trading because I want to be with my family. I want to go overseas. I want to have the best life for my son who probably won't be able to work. Okay. And I understand that if I don't do this, if I don't do what I'm doing now, I'm going to be aging to a point where I will be taking care of an adult. And so there's issues with that as well. So anyway, that's kind of I'm starting to get into a rabbit hole, but the whole point of that is you are here to make money. The charts are there to make money, not to look at the dang charts and to be like, oh, I'm so afraid of this. I can't trade this right now. Like, oh, I don't know. It's going to go under 30, and if it goes under 30, it's going to go to 25. Goes under 25, it's going to go to 20. If it goes to 20, it's going to go to 15. I'm just too scared of all of it. You can't just sit there and be scared about half the market, okay? So look back even on the past 18 months, or even since the beginning of 2021, or even the past year. Let's just do the past year because this year's been a very performative year. What percentage from 1 to 100, 0 to 100 have you been fearful or afraid to trade or doubting the trade or too scared to take profits or you take profits too soon or any of these things? Like at what percentage have you been scared? Okay. is because I can tell you my percentage on a scale from 0 to a 100 of being scared in this market for this year is probably 1 to 2%. Very low. It's definitely under 10, and I can make a case for under 5. And that's just not what I do. I'm just too into the part of this is experience. Part of this is honestly part of it helps me to keep doing these videos. Kind of helps me to learn as well. I've grown, I think, since this time last year. I've been doing these videos for about a year now, and so all of that helps, right? So I say all that to say, again, not to make fun of you, not to tell you you're dumb, but for you to grow and start making money above all else when it comes to trading. So that's the theme for today. I'm going to get into the analysis portion here. I'm going to take a short break off screen, go into Bitcoin and Bitcoin dominance, go to Ethereum, Solana, and then altcoins. And then, so this is, I think for the last couple of videos, I've been doing more of a theme section and then not doing the theme for the rest of the video. I think I'll do that again as well. So the rest of the video will be purely analysis. So, and if I find out this video is too long, I'll do a part. I'll make the TA a part 2, and you can go ahead and look at the part 2. So anyway, that being said, I don't know in real time if this is a part 1 or part 2. So if it is, I'll see you in the next video. If not, look forward to Bitcoin in just a second. All right, so now we are going to look at the analysis portion of this video, starting with Bitcoin, starting with the 1 week. Typically cover the 1 week, 1 day. Sometimes we cover the 4 hour, but I tend to reserve that for many markets, which are currently free videos that I do in Discord. So one thing is we had the big week from last week. That's pretty much what everybody had talked about. Everybody had kind of reframed their state of mind with all this, but they still have doubts, and so again, that was why that we had a theme for today, but also something to keep in mind that that was a pretty big candle overall. I mean, we've had some pretty big candles overall with this over the year, or over the past 12 months, but this is one that kind of secured a new local high for this year, secured pretty much a halfway point, about 47%. So if we look at it from wick to wick, we're not quite there to the halfway point. That's about $42,000. But I think a lot of people didn't expect that we would get to almost 35,000 here for this year, and I'm willing to bet that we could get higher by the end of this year. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not here to speculate. I'm just here to analyze it. So pretty good week overall. We do have, I think I'm going to get rid of these. I don't really know what they're for now that I think about it. So I'm going to just get rid of them for now. I don't have any positions open relative to this. So give us some clarity here. I'm just going to get rid of all of it actually. So going through here, one thing that I can see is that we have, here's your previous consolidation from that range. We're looking at about the mid-range of that. So that's one reason we're kind of where we are in the spot that we're in, is we are trying to retest the previous area here. And so the reason, if you guys don't know, the reason I do fib blocks, one, it's easy to make the halfway point. And two, when I look at a consolidation, I look at this as a range of supply and demand. And so if I could do like a fixed range profile, for example, I can look at it from here to here and just see here's the volume point from this range. If I want to focus from here to here, that gives me a better range, and so that's my range point. But overall, this entire structure is your supply and demand, and so you can do this one of two ways. One, you can look at the volume, the highest portion of that, which would be right here at 32,750, or you can look at the mid range, which is 35,300. I tend to do the second one. It just tends to be easier overall, and also, the volume profiles don't always tend to be accurate as in terms of finding that out. So the best way to do it is, if you want to consolidate this consolidation period, you just make a marker, aim for the 50 or aim for the half, and it works out. Most of the time it works out really good actually. So that's what we're looking at, looking for a possible rejection going into the next few weeks. But so far, we're looking pretty good. The market is actually doing better than I thought. for today. I thought that we'd get a little bit of a red, but we might get one leg up first. But the one leg up is doing better than I expected. So we'll see how that goes as we look into alts, because I was thinking more relative to alts anyway. But overall, market looks very strong. And again, this is why I have the theme of the video. I'm not interested in going to look at 15,000, 20,000 anymore. I think there's almost pretty much 100% chance that we won't go down to 15,000. I'll never say 100 fully, but as full as we possibly can. I don't think we'll go back down there, and I think there's like a 2% chance we'll even go down to 25,000 ever again. And so I think that's just the conditions have lent itself for that. Another thing is the 200 EMA, which I'll focus later on. But we have this rejection, or we have it's not a rejection, just resistance, quote unquote. We also have this here to be concerned about. So that might not be easy to overcome. That doesn't mean it won't be overcome. It doesn't mean that we're rejecting. That's completely different vernacular. So we do have a consolidation on the bearish side trying to form. So the rules on this for Aron is this current week, we have 6 days left. It needs to close, it needs to fail at getting a new high. And so if we can stay under this range at 35,135, it will integrate into a bearish consolidation. Then we can start thinking about shorts. Okay, but right now everything looks solid. Another thing is the RSI is up pretty good, about 70, so it's not quite in my oversold range personally is like 80%. Not quite there yet. I don't use it the same way that people use it anyway. So one thing I want to keep in mind, however, is with this area right here, this is an area that I've discussed before as a way to break through. Now that we've broken it through, we actually caused a bullish breaker, so we could retest back down to this range at 30,900 or basically 31,000. So that is a possibility. Okay. Now, when you get close enough to this range, it becomes less of a breaker. So the chances of it happening, like going back down, actually can become less. We'll see how that plays out. But 31,000 is kind of my marker as a retest point that also helps create a deviation. And the longer that we go above that 31,000, the less of a deviation that gets it doesn't get interpreted as a deviation as much. So a deviation should really, there's no real rule, but it should be less time generally instead of more. Like, this is not a deviation of this. You see what I'm saying? Like, you could say this is a breakout. This is not a deviation just because it went under. This is a deviation. So deviations tend to be less by default. Okay, so they're the little bumps that protrude out of a general structure. So that's what we got to work with. So very interesting. We could hit 31,000. I'm not afraid to say that we're going to go there. A lot of people are thinking that we will, and that's completely fine. Just because everybody and their mom's thinking about 31,000 doesn't mean it can't be right. So don't think about the majority thing. I just think about what's on the charts. Think about making money. Find ways to make money, and this is how I analyze it with this. Going on to the daily. We do have kind of a double top. Seems to be holding up so far. We can look at the 4 hour, see how that goes. But we do have a bearish wedge that is actually going up to the bullish side instead. So that is your pressure pattern. That is your quote unquote bearish divergence for Aroon, so to speak. They work a little bit differently than regular divergences, but they have generally the same effect. So what I'm thinking about here is that I want to look at the 4 hour. I have not looked at it yet, but I do think that we could probably range based off this notion, and then we could possibly head back down. But the more that we stay afloat, the more likely it's going to be bullish continuation instead. And so that's one you got to watch out. If the Aroon if it ends up crossing bearish like here, but there was no follow through, then that actually lends itself to doing a swing up like this, like it did. So that's something that we need to be mindful of. This could backfire on the bears, so they need to be careful about this. So, but so far, still looks good from a bullish standpoint. We're actually trending right around the 80 from the upside, so we are going to start to cross downward. So that is a concern as well, that we could go back to 31. But I'm not afraid to say that. That sounds like a lot, but a lot of you guys, like a month ago, were saying that we would ever even get to 31,000 from the downside. So that's just how it is. It's just how I see it. And honestly, like, believe me, if I wanted to tell you things that you would like to know, I can find a way to sweet talk people. That's just not my MO. I'm honest, even brutally so. So this is kind of what I see. You see, you have your diversions on the 4 hour. This has been played out, and so we kind of have a consolidation here. So this looks like reaccumulation to me. And so generally speaking, what that looks like is that we'll probably get a drop down. I really feel like they got rid of that dang arrow, and that's gonna annoy me because that was like my second most used. Here it is, arrow. Got it. Why did they move that? That makes no sense. Anyway, I'm glad I found it though. So I think that we could do something like so. Why is it so dang big? Are you kidding me? Okay, about ready to panic. So I think it could go something down like that, or maybe as low as 33.6. So I'm saying if this consolidates and reaccumulates instead of going downward, this is what I would see. I probably would see a fake out here and something like so, and then maybe something like this, and then we go up from there. And so that might take another week, but that's the bullish standpoint that I see. Just classic reaccumulation, nothing fancy. I'm not saying it will play out that way. I'm not one of those guys that think I'm not big enough to say, oh, I know exactly where this market's going to go, right? So that's kind of what I see from that standpoint, right? So if we, anyway, in summary, I would look for this reaccumulation to occur. Okay, if not, you could play the range of this, and that works well. A drop from here, it is possible that you could make a short setup, all the way down to like 31. That is a little bit risky, but it could go down as low as here. That's something that you could do. But like I said, like you got two R at most, so it's a little risky depending on where you want to put your stop at. So I would rather focus on looking for buy opportunities, and then if this fails, then start to look for shorts or hedging my longs or getting out of some spot, what have you. So if this goes above, then that's a good time, especially above the halfway point here. Then you could do something like so, and then sky's the limit. You could head to that 42,000 that we're looking at, um, or actually maybe just right here. Better our position and probably a safer trade as well. So you got that to work with. So that's the two scenarios I see on Bitcoin. I'm going to go very briefly on the dominance chart, see how that looks. So from a weekly standpoint, I thought this would break through, and I actually readjusted this to counter for the logarithmic chart. And so we'll see if that plays out instead. Other than that, like I said, this isn't a theory that I'm holding out per se, but looking at this from a logarithmic standpoint, this does look a little better and look cleaner. So we'll see how that goes. But dominance is rising, despite the fact that the entire market is rising. So that's worth noting. I don't think. I mean, I don't think we should neglect Bitcoin until we get some sort of rejection or divergence, things like that. So keep that in mind. And also, it's also worth noting that divergences don't tend to happen that much on dominance charts. So it didn't happen here at the peak. It did happen right here, and it happened a little bit right here. But overall, excuse me, but it didn't really happen anywhere else. So that's just something to keep in mind. I tend to be a divergence guy, and they don't tend to happen much on dominance charts. That's also on the weekly as well. So let me see if it's. You could probably make a case here on the daily, honestly, but I guess right here too. So maybe if we focus on the daily, we can kind of see that. Nothing really worth it here, and so I just keep that in mind. So divergence looks okay for now. Bitcoin looks okay. Let's go ahead and go on to some other alts. We'll start with Ethereum first. Well, we'll do an Ethereum and Solana anyway, so we'll do Ethereum next, and then we'll keep going. All right, on to Ethereum. We're going to go on to the weekly for this as well. And so get rid of all this, and I guess I had some alerts that were important, but I guess they aren't important enough for me to remember. So get rid of them. Clean chart. Ready to go. So we had a pretty big week last week as well. Not as good as Bitcoin on that regard. And so we did also kind of break through, but we also have a certain structure that we had to work with. We didn't make a new high like we did with Bitcoin. We also have a bullish wedge on this. So this also makes me think that Ethereum is going to have a little bit of a run here. We just also clipped above the RSI 50 last week as well. And so that's another consideration that we have. On top of that, we also had that wedge that we had, something like so, that did do pretty good. And then last but not least, we had that line that I had for so many months where we had the deviation, and so we're still above that. So as far as this goes, we had this wedge. If you've seen my videos for some time, you know that I had this about 2 months ago, kind of prep for this. We're still within that range. We still bounce above, but this still looks pretty good. In fact, we haven't really had a wedge like this at all, and ever since the time that this started. But we also have a much different time frame on the AO, and then the RSI is in a much different position. So this looks much better, to be honest with you. And so the entire time that we were up above on the RSI, we didn't really have any sort of bullish wedge. We had a bullish consolidation, but that ended up going to the downside. So this looks pretty good, honestly. I do think that we could expand above the $2,000 range. That's kind of what everybody's looking for. And a lot of people are kind of wondering about Ethereum because it's lagged very considerably compared to other assets like Solana, which we'll get to next, has had a pretty good run. So that's a consideration that we need to look into. So I think that we could rally. I think Ethereum looks pretty good. We'll also do ETH BTC here alongside Ethereum. So on the daily, we have a little bit of a divergence here, but nothing too much. If we want to look at this consolidation period and quantify it, we're looking at about 1915 on that one. So we could get a little bit of a run. I guess we could probably extend this, and that's really hard, but it's still around 1900. So that's kind of what we got to work with. I like this setup here from that deviation. That makes it much cleaner. So you're looking about 1946, around World War II type year pricing. So that's what we have. I'm not too concerned about this drop down. Those don't typically get retested as much as you think they do. But overall, looks pretty good. We have a bearish consolidation, pretty steep one, in fact, steeper than usual, and we had one similar to that, which went down. So we could look for that. So the thing is, we have the divergence on the daily. It could play out. Keep in mind for that. I'm going to cover the 4-hour briefly on this as well. Have a double top, slight divergence on that. No follow through. But here's your kind of range to work with. So I think if we go below to the 1760s, then I think we can go down. If not, we'll go to new highs to the 2000. So that's pretty self-explanatory, to be honest with you. I'm going to go over to ETH-BTC. A lot of people have been talking about this, and so I want to preface this first of all to say that I'm a minority in this regard, that I think Ethereum Bitcoin charts are not as prevalent as they used to be. Okay, so because when I started in 2017, everybody looked at Bitcoin charts, Bitcoin pair charts. So Litecoin BTC, ETH BTC, things like that. And then last cycle, we still looked at ETH BTC. There was a time when looking at ETH BTC really mattered. Okay, but that was before they changed to the POS model, before they changed all this other stuff, right? Shanghai fork, all those kind of things. So I think now, and I don't know if anybody's discussed this, but I do believe that ETH BTC will not have a strong context any longer. And so I want to preface that to say, I want to say that because I'm going to look at this chart and I'm going to tell you things a little bit differently, because I don't really rely on it as much. I don't think it's worth relying on that much. And here's the thing: if you want to rely on ETH PTC, that's great, because you want to sit there and because the natural rebuttal to what I just said will be like, well, if you want to long Ethereum and you don't want to look at ETH BTC, then you should just trade BTC. And I'm like, yes, I totally agree. So why don't you also do that thing with other altcoins? See what I'm saying? Nobody cared about Solana BTC until a week ago because it was going up in USD. A lot of other people are not looking at altcoins any longer in Bitcoin value. How many times have you looked, other than Ethereum, on a Bitcoin pair this year? Most people have not looked once because it's becoming less prevalent. And so I think ETH BTC will also become less prevalent, which is sad because it really should stay prevalent. And this is a sign that really, because here's the thing: if you flip this, by the way, if you just flip this, that also shows you that that Bitcoin is not much leading on Ethereum either. Okay, see what I'm saying? So I don't understand why the focus is on Bitcoin as much, because you could say basically we're at the same price point since May of 2021. Well, let's go back to Bitcoin here and look at May of 2021, and you know it's basically the same price. See? So we're roughly right here at this candle. So it's basically the same. So Bitcoin has had bigger swings. I agree with that. But overall, you can invert that and you still get the same thing. So I don't understand the argument from the ETH PTC side. But let's go ahead and go back to that because I do want to cover it slightly and kind of finish this off. Go to Solana. But one thing we can see is we can see this curling consolidation down here. We're looking at a low. I've already got this marked out. This is the midpoint of all of this. And so that's kind of what I see. The RSI is pretty low, so I do think that we could finally get some structure here. I don't believe that it's going to really go down below here. Doesn't make sense to me. If we go on the daily, I think we are starting to get a divergence here, so that's good. I think the tide is turning to start focusing on ETH more than BTC, all things considered, right? But also what you keep in mind, even if we go and see, and here's the thing that's probably going to get me upset about this is because if we look at here and say, all right, let's say this is the bottom, right? And you go up to here, it's going to be 32%. 32% markup on Ethereum relative to its BTC pairing, but people are still going to interpret this as choppy, right? So until we get out of this range, if we go out of this range bullishly, we'll need at least 61% to market through. And so that's where I think there's some confusion to the nature of Bitcoin pairs, things like that. So but as far as the daily goes, I think it looks pretty good. I'm gonna look at the 3 day as well. No divergence. That's kind of not the best setup, but I do like this reaction thus far on the daily. This isn't necessarily a good structure, but this is something to look forward to for a possible bounce. So that's Ethereum BTC. I'm gonna go to Solana next, and I might cover the other. I'm going pretty long in this video, so I think I'll cover a few of those other ones in another video. So. All right, now we're going on to Solana. This will be the last one because I have really had a long duration on this video, so I'll cover the altcoins in another video. So overall, pretty similar premise to Ethereum. We had a big upswing on that. The thing is, in addition to that, we also had a big upswing for the previous week, so that works out pretty good. Everything is looking solid. We don't have any consolidation on this. This is a full trend. This is what I want Bitcoin to do, by the way. Because with this one, you have a down move. If you have that for 2 candles in a row, that's a consolidation, and then you're going to end up being, it's going to be choppy and problematic. This one is a full trend, so I'm much more bullish on Solana. You could tell based off of this. I think they also released a new wallet today, and Adam is doing good. Man, I wish I could cover that, but doing pretty considerably well. The market's doing pretty good, honestly. And this kind of goes what I said in Ethereum. Like I'm not convinced that Ethereum is the catalyst that it used to be. Okay, it's pretty much done everything that it's supposed to be doing. It used to be a catalyst for alt season because that was the only frame of reference that we could work with for the entirety of the market other than Bitcoin. Well, now we got other coins, we got other actions, we got other things going on, right? So I just think that it's just going to have less of a weight, and I don't really have any solid proof. Like I don't really care one way or the other anyway, so I'm not really stubborn in that regard. I don't have enough proof to swing with that thesis. So overall, so going back here, we did go above the midpoint, so I think we could easily go to continuation to $37. That's not even that far away, so we have that to work with. But this is a very impressive run. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So for the past 2 months, we've been up like pretty much 90%, and this is what I was talking about. This is why I made my bag below 20. This is why I suggested sub 20s because this is a big deal. Okay, you guys could have snagged a 2x if you just would have paid attention to my charts. Okay, and so that's the thing, and this is actually a prime example going into the theme: printing money without doubting. Stop doubting the market and just long it. Okay, I'm not saying that I'm not trying to say that haphazardly. Don't be stupid in that regard. Always do your research, always do everything, but focus on doing that with the basis of trying to make money instead of trying to doubt. You're always trying to prevent yourself from making money, basically, is what a lot of you guys are doing. So I think that's a good reference to keep in mind with that. So I just think that's something that we should look towards. So, no divergence here on the weekly. So nothing really to be concerned about. I think I might look at the 3 day just for a second. And then no divergence on this, but we are getting into some oversold territory according to my standards. However, we got this upswinging here. I will mention that in just a second. And I think I can mention it here on the daily. I think that's where I mentioned it first, or will mention it. So we have two things that are conflicting. First of all, we have a divergence here on the RSI. Second of all, we have a trend line that's going up. And when you have a trend line consolidation and it breaks above, that is a sign that we will rally upwards very strongly. And so if that happens, if this closes above the line, there's a good chance that this is going to continue to rally even harder than what it has been. And so we'll see. We got about uh, 2 hours left to this. So keep watch to see if this is going to close below around to this area, around the low 34s. We'll see how that goes. It looks like it might head that way. I'm going to analyze the 4 hour to give you some context. But overall, if it goes up, you have not seen anything yet. Okay. And I mentioned this before. Lower, lower below, lower than 20, even around the $15 range, that this could go up pretty significantly. This could rally. We were at that time 12x from the top. Now I think we're probably like 9 or 8x, which is still pretty good. You still have time to get in, but you have much less of a time to work with. So I think that's just something that we could consider. Sorry, I got something going on with my headphones. Anyway, so with all that in mind, this looks pretty good. So that's the day. Let's go on to the 4 hour roughly. And so here, what we got here, we have the run up with this, with the consolidation on the R side, kind of a divergence led into another consolidation with an impulse. So all that being said, still looks pretty good. I think this looks like it's going to hold, and so we could hold above this line, and so that's something that should consider. If it rallies above that, then I think 37 might even get broken. We'll see how that goes. I think it just depends. So I'm 50-50 on the last part of that because we do have the divergence in play. Overall, Solana's pretty strong, and I'm telling you, I've been mentioning this, that I thought Solana looked massively good, and we're not even out of this range yet, right? So we have a ways to go. So some people that say, why are you freaking out? You can always buy it. That's totally true, but the thing is, the multiples are lowering. So now you're at a 6x. See what I'm saying? So if we would mark it back down from where we were, so let's try to mark that at the same. And so let's go down to where I went. Let's just go down here because I think I got in about 19. So once we got above this is where I went. So now that's a 12x. You see what I'm saying? So we have doubled in that regard. So let me kind of paste this out here. So I just want you to keep that in mind. So that little bit of difference makes your multiple go in half. So that's why I mentioned what I say, and that's why I do what I do, because I'm here to try to help you make the most that you can. And guess what? I traded once, I'm holding it. I'm not selling it. I look at the charts every day. I look at the charts 4 or 5 times minimum a day. Okay, and I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned that this is going to flash crash. If this flash crash is 20%, I'm not concerned at all. I'll just buy more. Okay? That I actually kind of hope it does go down. And that's one reason it's not going down, is because a lot of people think it is going to go down, but it's not, because that's just how it works. So, anyway, see all that to say, Solana still looks pretty good. I still think it looks great. A lot of these other coins look great. Maybe I'll do another video. I think I've been going on. I'm pretty sure I passed my hour, but I'm going to do another video probably later tonight in Nowhere Discord. Go ahead and sign up if you haven't. I did a 3-part series yesterday. So I normally do one video. Yesterday I did 3. So I did 30 minutes worth of video for free in my Discord. It's there almost all the time. Go ahead and check that out. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm working with altcoins and the theme for today. So with all that being said, I just kind of want to summarize to say, focus on making money. Don't focus on the doubts. Don't focus on your fears. Don't focus on your goals. Don't focus on anything other than when you are trading, you are trying to get a green thing show up on screen, and then you make your money, and then you move on to the next. Okay. And some of that takes certain context. High time frame spot takes a different mentality than scalps and swings and everything else, right? So get into that frame of reference. Focus on making money. Don't focus on the day to day stuff, in my opinion, at least, because that's going to create more noise for you and you're going to get distracted, okay? So at the end of the day, focus on that. I do believe we're in a new cycle. Um, and even if we're not, I'm going to find a new way to try to make money a different way. So, anyway, all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Focus on making money. I hope you do. I'll see you next time. Have a good day.